I remember that morning, it was my first town hall. I came to work excited what to expect on the first town hall that I'm going to attend. And I got my coffee. The coffee was smelling good. You could hear, me walking down to the place where we all going to meet. The company's going to meet and hear the announcement of our owner and the chairman of the company I was with. His name was John Campion. So I was chopping down in my high heels. You could hear the noise on the floor as I was walking by and holding my coffee mug and found a space and sat down. And here he is. John came in, and he's just an amazing person. He's started talking about his mission. He started sharing his passion. He said that his wife is asking him every night whether he made a difference or not in the world. And I can remember his delivery and his message and his passion to this day. And he is one of the reasons why his companies really began to thrive in the global market. So I will never forget that those town halls with him. And I want to honor John Campion that recently passed away, and he's in a better place right now. He has been a really, really powerful communicator. So today, I'm so happy to welcome you. And I'm very grateful to have you here to share the message about how we can all to improve our communication and communicate and deliver our messages powerfully. As you're joining in, I would like to see where you're coming from. Let me know. And in the comments, how are you doing today and how your Monday is treating you? My name is Jana Masik. I'm the host of this LinkedIn broadcast, Powering Unique You. And I'm so thrilled to have you here today. Now, when we dive into the communication and the messaging and how we can craft our messages to deliver them powerfully, I believe there's so much to learn. And as you will learn, the best is to learn from the pros, right? The ones that have walked the walk and talked the talk. And you know what? I'm so excited to find this amazing, amazing person that is an author. He is also a speaker, and he is the messaging coach. So he has spent his last 25 years on all sorts of stages, delivering powerful messages. And now, if he's not on the stage, he's teaching all sorts of different professionals like you and me. Sometimes here today, he's going to be teaching us on how to craft the messages powerfully and really make an impact in the world. I am really happy and excited without further ado to bring on Keith Ferrin. Hello, Keith.
Hey, Jana, how are you today?
I am doing wonderful. I'm so excited to have you here and cannot wait to learn from you, Keith. I know you just have so much in your toolbox, experience, knowledge, and everything else. And as we dive in, I want to say, if you're coming in, if you have any questions for Keith, please type them in the comments. We'll be happy to answer them as we go through today's episode. So Keith, I want to ask you, you say you're a messaging coach, and what is a messaging coach and how is it different from communication coach?
Well, a messaging coach, I call myself a messaging coach because when people hear the phrase communication coach, I find that they immediately go to, he's a public speaking coach. He helps people on stages. And my response to that is a sliver of what I do. Yes, oftentimes the initial conversation, the initial reason that somebody hires me is to help them with an important speech because they realize that their tendency is to get up on stage and wet their pants. And they just hate the idea of getting up on stage. And so, yes, that is a piece of what I do. But I find that if you first start with a crystal clear, simple message, then all of your communication, every meeting, every email, every presentation, and all the on-stage presentations will be better. And so for me, I say, let's start with a crystal clear message. And then we'll figure out what the best delivery mechanism is for that. So I want to make sure your message is good, no matter how you're going to deliver it.
I love this. I love the difference, though, because yes, we can say communication is important, but it is not just in the way how we communicate. It is crafting the message, and it is being able to deliver it powerfully, no matter what means are. And right now, most of us are on virtual stages. Most of us have this virtual communication, and it is really relevant. I am so excited here. And we have Sandra tuning in. Hello, Sandra, saying great topic and expertise. Jana and Keith, good to have you, Sandra. Thank you for coming in. Hi. And Keith, the power and the process of simplifying your message. You mentioned that messaging, make it simple. The simpler it is, the more clarity there is, the more, I think, concise it is, the easier it is to truly get to the core of it. So how do you do that? So maybe give us a little bit of a walk through how to simplify your message.
Yeah, well, the simplifying of the message, I mean, as you can see, that's the name of my company, Simply Communicate. So I tell people all the time, kind of my mantra when it comes to communication and messaging is simple gets applied and complicated gets set aside. And so that is a kind of keeping that in your mind as you're preparing anything is huge to getting that. And I know for me, that's something that started way back, before I ever thought about teaching anybody this. I knew that I'm one of those weird people who just likes to be on stages. I actually enjoy the public speaking piece, but it was really kind of the where this came from will lead to how to do it, I guess, is the best way to say that. And so where this came from for me is I had been speaking at different conferences, and I early on, right out of college, almost 30 years ago now, I was a youth pastor for a while, and then I would speak at conferences and churches and different things and nonprofits and then fundraising things and different things. And I was speaking at these different things and wanted to do that more. And so I left my church job, went to go start speaking more regularly. And I was having lunch with a buddy of mine, and he said, "Okay, Keith, so you're comfortable on stage, which is rare. You're a pretty decent storyteller, and you're mildly funny. So you could probably wing it and be, have a decent career. But if you ever want to be excellent, you need to go to this conference." And so I trusted him, and he knew what I was trying to do, and he'd known me for about 10 years at that point. And so I trusted him, and I went to the mountains of Colorado to this intensive public speaking training conference where they just ripped you apart for 4 days. You couldn't come with your speeches prepared. You had to prepare them on site and deliver them that night. And so there was a whole method to the madness. But in the midst of that, I learned about a system for thinking through messaging. Now, this was specifically about public speaking, but I started applying that when I got back. And what I realized is everybody wants to speak better. Everybody wants to run better meetings. Everybody wants to improve communication amongst their team or their marketing or whatever. And we know that systems make things better, but most of us don't marry those two things. Most of us don't have a system for thinking through writing an email or through thinking through teaching them, teaching something or preparing for a meeting or building a slide deck. We don't have a systematic way of thinking that, but we know from whether it be you setting up this live podcast, I know that you've done this now enough that you have a system that you go through of, okay, here's where the lighting needs to be. Here's what microphone needs to be turned on. Here's what I click first. Here's what I click second. And you know that you not only become more efficient, you're able to do it faster, but it also becomes better. And so you're saving time and you're improving. And so the what ended up happening is over the course of the next year, I filtered every message that I was going to do through this system that I was had learned a piece of and was developing as I went along and refining, and found that I'd speak somewhere early in the year and I'd go back to speak there again 9 months later, and people would say, "Oh, I remember when you were here and you taught this, this, this." And they would go, and I would think, I don't remember what most speakers talk about a week after. I can't imagine that somebody remembered it a month after. And what I found is that as we simplify, as we focus on what we want to accomplish, then we get all of the clutter out of the way. And that I think is the first, kind of the first step is really what is the most simple piece of this that I want to accomplish, and make sure everything is targeting toward that. So
I love that. I love the story. Very inspirational, because you were like, okay, I'm a decent speaker, I can do that. But then, you come across and you realize if you don't have a system, and I love how you give this coherence, if you don't have a system and if you don't run it through the system, it somewhat of a, you left at the randomness, right, of it. You think, oh, I may create it this way, I may create it that way. But if you have a system that you run in and you improve over time, as you shared, you're improving your craft, you're improving the better ways, you make it more efficient, then it is becoming a proven system. And then you can create any kind of message, any kind of on any kind of topic, and run through that system effectively, so it has the most powerful delivery and impact on people. Sure. I love that. And I cannot wait to learn the system from you. Now we have Andrew Bruzy, my friend, is saying, love that. Learning how to speak spontaneously is helpful in all forms of communication. And here's the thing. I think if you have a system, then the system is in your mind, right? Mm-hmm. You can craft it on the go. Absolutely. So yes, and how you can apply that system to preparing the messages, the saving your time, right? You prepare the messages because you already have a blueprint. Then you deliver them more confidently because you know what you're doing, you know what the steps are, and then they are actually more effectively. They reach out people, they reach the audience.
For sure.
Yes. Sure. So, Keith, tell us, please, what the system is and what the steps. I think we're all eager to learn from you.
All right. So it was something that, as this would continue. Now, I live in the Seattle area, so we kind of identified that you and I live at opposite corners of this country, and with you down in Florida. For me up in Seattle, there oftentimes, as I would speak at these different fundraising banquets and these events and conferences, a lot of the people that were sitting in audiences were executives at places like Microsoft and Amazon and the Gates Foundation and different places. And I remember having a few people come up to me and say, "Hey, you seem really comfortable on stage, and you're kind of clear with this, and your opening got me hooked in, and I've got this big important speech. Can you help me with this?" And so as I mentioned, it oftentimes starts with somebody that's got a speech that they're super nervous about. And so I would start talking to them about it. But then as we talked about the speech, I found that these people in these pretty high up positions at some pretty big companies were going, "Well, I've also got this meeting that I'm going to be running. Could this work as we think through this? Could this work with this?" And it was something that I realized I didn't want to create an email writing system, a meeting planning system, a presentation slide deck building system, a keynote system. I wanted one system that was, again, a messaging system, something that would apply to all areas of communication, no matter whether the delivery is written or spoken. I wanted a way of thinking through a message that the delivery could change, and the thought process. Because as you already mentioned, when you have that message, or when you have that system, just in your mind, then you can adapt on the fly. You can adapt it as you go. And so I developed what I now call the complete communication system, which is a 4-step simple system that is completely applicable and scalable to any delivery, any message, any delivery model, written or spoken. And the first step of the complete communication system is purpose. Deciding before you start preparing what you want that particular piece of communication to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
What you want to accomplish, not what you want to talk about. So the next time you hear somebody speak, so those of you that are watching this, the next time you are in a situation when you're listening to somebody deliver any message, listen to how many times people say, okay, today I want to talk to you about, and I remember, and this will be your trigger, that somebody is about to give a topic-driven message, not a purpose-driven message.
Oh my. Can
And
I
it will be
pause you for a
filled
second?
Yeah.
It's too good. I feel I would have to rewind and rewatch it myself.
Right.
This is too good, Keith, because I agree that we focus, it's spontaneous for most of us to focus on the topic, to focus on what are the details of that I'm going to talk about, right? And it's coming from a teaching perspective, but it also comes in, okay, I'm delivering these key points. Yet starting with purpose is really deep, and it causes you to think more, I say, broadly, and think through how to achieve the purpose, not just deliver the topic. I love this. This is fantastic. And this is just the first step.
and this is honestly, it's one of those things where I tell people, if you hear me walk through the system, and even if it makes sense and whatever, if the only thing you take away for today, for this week, is looking at your next meeting, your next email, your next presentation, your next phone call or Zoom meeting, and you decide, and you just simply pause, take 60 seconds and decide what you want the outcome to be, not what you want to talk about, you'll start to transform. Even if you only employ step one, I tell people, get this one, because the biggest problem that most people face in communication, whether they think that it's nerves or creativity or opening or confusing, or they forget no matter what they think their challenge is, I find that for most of my clients, the issue is they are delivering topic-driven messages, not purpose-driven messages. And I remember this came to a head. One of the clients that hired me was the CEO of a company here in Seattle. And it was a company of about 80 to 100 employees. And he would, once a quarter, he would bring his people together for what he called his quarterly GSM, which is the general staff meeting. And he would bring everybody. He would buy them all breakfast. He would rent out a room, and they would spend 2 to 3 hours together. And I started doing the math on how much this cost him, right? In lost productivity from people not actually working at the time, as well as the top level costs. And it was a lot. It was well into the six figures every time he had this meeting. And so the first time we were planning this together, he had hired me. We had been working together on a couple little things. And then we were working on this. And he said, I said, okay, so what's the purpose of this GSM? And he said, well, I want to talk to them about, and I just stopped him. I just said, do you realize there's no one in your company who cares what you want to talk about?
That's a hard truth to swallow.
So, and I realized later on, that's probably not the best way to talk to a CEO. But it was something, well, he ended up hiring me for the next 5 years. So,
well, sometimes when you speak
truth, it's one of those things where I guess it was okay.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where he kind of was stuck he was stopped in his tracks. And he said, what do you mean nobody cares what I want to talk about? He said, no, nobody cares, especially early in the morning when they're sitting there eating breakfast. They don't care just what you want to talk about. They care what you want to accomplish. And so thinking in terms of, here's what I want to accomplish. When you have a purpose, I tell people, having a crystal clear purpose gives you a mindset for your preparation and a direction for your delivery. So here, and let me say that again, because this is crucial. Having a crystal clear, chosen, decided upon purpose before you ever start gives you a mindset for your preparation and a direction for your delivery. So when you're preparing, you can go through, and if you've got that purpose and you even put it on your, tape it up on your computer monitor, and you say, this is what I want to accomplish, you can start evaluating all that you could talk about and include only what is going to accomplish your purpose. And you can say, okay, this is important, but this is actually 2 meetings down the road before we really need to talk about this. And excuse me. And so having that mindset, I find that that's where a huge amount of time savings comes in, which was something that kind of surprised me, is that I wanted to help people deliver better messages. I didn't realize that most of my clients would come back to me and say, not only am I delivering better messages, but I'm spending 20, 30, 40, one person up to 80% less time preparing for meetings and delivering them better and accomplishing more. And I'm like, okay, if I can save people time and improve their communication, then their whole team is going to be better. And so then in the delivery side of it, if you've got a crystal clear purpose, I mean, just take something we're all in all the time, meetings, right? Not even taking public speaking out of it.
Yeah.
In a meeting, if you've delivered not just what you want to talk about, the topic and the subject line of the meeting invite, but you've actually said, okay, we want to brainstorm. The purpose of this meeting is to brainstorm 7 ideas and narrow them down to 3. Well, then when you get into that meeting, people have already known that's the purpose of the meeting, not to talk about marketing for Q4, right? We want to talk about marketing for Q4. Everyone's going to come into that meeting with a different purpose in their mind.
Oh, yes.
But if you've stated, okay, for Q4, we want to brainstorm 7 topics, narrow or as many as we can, and narrow it down to 3. Then everybody is going toward the same goal. And everybody always asks, how do I keep people from going off on tangents? Have a purpose. Because then when somebody starts going off on the tangent, you can blame the purpose, not the person, which always leads to a better team.
Back. I love it. And I love.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I love it. And I did not mean to interrupt, but I say what you're saying is gold here. And thank you so much for sharing this with our audience. Everybody's loving it. Give some hearts to Keith. And if you find value in this, please share and spread the goodness with your community. I love that you said the purpose eliminates this unnecessary vacuum of ideas that people come in. And I also love and notice that you mentioned in the example that it is very specific, right? So the more specific it is, then the more clarity there is, and then there's less, less opportunities for misunderstanding. So everybody's clear when we talk about running the meetings. Everybody's clear on the purpose. Now that we're discussing this, I'm thinking, how can I run my meetings with my kids and determine my purpose and how I want to communicate with them? This is really, really good, Keith. And we have a lot of people tuning in saying how much they love it. They say, if you know your purpose, James, message track. This allows you to be spontaneous and as you skip the topics. This is really good. And George is saying, brilliant topic. Purpose is absolutely essential. What do you suggest for making your communication more impactful in sales? Here's a question for you.
Okay. So let me ask you, Jana, since this is your show, do you want me to pause and answer Jorge's question right now, or do you want to compile these and walk through the rest of the system and then? Because I definitely have plenty of answers. And Jorge, if I don't answer it, reach out to me and we'll talk.
Let's do that. Jorge, how about we go ahead and wrap up the whole core thing, because I think this is really powerful. And then we'll come back to your question, Jorge. And anybody that will have questions, please also post them. And then at the end, we'll answer the question. Keith, is it going to be okay with you? I think it will help us with the flow.
For sure.
Victoria is sharing, interesting, takes more thoughtful preparation. So everybody's loving it. Let's keep it on track. Keith, because this is really, really good.
Okay. So the step 1 is purpose.
Yes.
And I'm going to do is I'm going to give you all 4. I normally teach this either as a 3-hour, training session or something like that, or coach somebody over 6 months or something like that. But I want to give you the framework of it. And then at the end, I'll give you 3 questions. We kind of talked about that. 3 questions that are an even simpler version of this that can get you started so that even after the 40 to 60 minutes that we're going to spend together, you can start using it today. So step 1 is purpose. Step 2 is precision. And that's really, that's where a lot of the work comes in. I think somebody just mentioned, I think it was Victoria said, takes more thoughtful preparation. Yeah. In the precision piece is where you weed out all of the stuff that could be included in the topic you're talking about, but does not accomplish the purpose that you've said this meeting, this call, this presentation, this speech is meant to accomplish. And so that's where you weed everything out. And I've got some different questions you can ask and some rules that you can follow. Something, for example, I call the rule of 3 is if you can't say it in 3 minutes, you're not ready to talk about it for an hour. If you can't in your own mind give a clear presentation of the 3-minute version of that hour-long talk, then you're going to spend most of your time rambling. So there are some different rules.
This is tough.
Oh, super tough.
This is tough, Kiss. 3 minutes. It is tough. Like I've done some of the presentations and participated in the challenge, and just to briefly insert. And the challenge was to share your story in 3 minutes. And they say it takes more preparation to share something concisely within 3 minutes than 1 hour. But I agree. Your analogy is, if you prepare to deliver it for 3 minutes, you're going to have such a clarity that then it's going to be easy for you to distill and stay on track instead of just going into directions that are going to be taking you away from the purpose. So purpose, precision. Let's do it.
For sure. Yeah. And once you have that, I mean, people have already mentioned being able to be spontaneous. I think Andrew said that. And Jorge's talking about sales, which a lot of times, I mean, if Jorge is still on here, then he knows that in sales, you've oftentimes got to be able to respond and pivot to a specific question that a client is asking. And so having that precision of being able to say it in 3 minutes, like I even say, if you can get it down to 30 seconds, people ask me, what is a messaging coach? What do I do? And I can actually boil it down to say, I help leaders and entrepreneurs and sales teams with a 4-step simple system that helps them prepare their messages more efficiently, which saves time, deliver messages confidently, which improves their own enjoyment of their work, and land messages more effectively, which affects their bottom line and their productivity as a team. Well, I wasn't timing it, but I'm guessing that was around 30 to 40 seconds, right? And then now I can talk about it for as many hours as you'd like, how we do that. So let's jump through precision, purpose, precision. Third is points. Mm-hmm. Points is that is the content. This is where you actually start organizing your content. A lot of people start with their content. And I always tell people, ever since I started writing and speaking, people have told me content is king. I've heard that phrase, content is king, forever. And I tell people, it's not true. Content is not king. Purpose is king. Content is the peasant that serves the king. Now, content is massively important. Without good content, you're not going anywhere. Yes. I can tell you, without a clear purpose that content is serving and pushing along and accomplishing, then all of the great content either gets lost because it's too complicated, or it just is putting lipstick on a pig. You're just trying to figure out some way to make this look good. So your points, and there's a lot that once you've gone through purpose and you have narrowed it down precision, then you can start asking yourself some questions about, okay, what's the best order for my points? What's the best transition from this point to the next? With this particular client, do they even care about point number 3? Do they, maybe I'll leave this one out when I'm meeting with that, because a lot of times in sales or in, presenting and entrepreneurs that are selling an idea, a lot of times you're kind of telling the same story and you've got your message you're delivering. But when you think about your audience and you think, okay, they don't actually care about this one, or they care about this one so much, I should move this point up to the front instead of just delivering it the way that we want to deliver it.
Mhm.
I just think it's more about serving your audience than just stating your own idea. And so that's the points piece. There's the
Yes.
organization of it, the structure of it is the best way to get across this point: a story, an analogy, a statistic, a quote, a video clip, an audio, a picture. There's all of that around the delivery of that. But don't start with that. That's 3 steps down the line. And then I tell people whether you're writing an email, whether you're delivering a meeting, presentation, whatever, steps 1, 2, and 3, purpose, precision, points, those all stay the same. Where the special sauce happens is in the 4th step, which is process, because obviously the process of delivering an email is different than the process of delivering a keynote speech or a presentation or a sales pitch or something like that. And so the process step is something where that's where you start asking the question, okay, what's the best way to deliver this? I know this is what I want to accomplish. I know that I've weeded out everything that's getting in the way, and I've got my points organized. Okay, so this is where you start thinking about things like opening stories and the hook, all those kinds of things. So that's the
Brilliant.
that's the 15-minute version of the 3-hour workshop. So
this is brilliant. Thank you so much. Please give some hearts and applause to Keith on LinkedIn. I think this is a phenomenal that you've shared so compact, and I love from your own system that you've applied all of these steps. So it is, if nothing else, to take away those 4 steps can help you. If you want to expand it and hear a longer version, reach out to Keith on LinkedIn. He'll be happy to work with you on that. I love it that because it is simple and it starts with purpose, because it is true that we need to be purposeful in everything that we do, in all of our messages and all of our communication. And then precision, make clarity your guide, so you don't start and lead with fluff, that it is more of a precise short version of what exact value you're going to deliver. Points, I love that they can be different types of points, but this is your main content that is going to feed into what your purpose is and how you want to deliver it concisely. And then the process can be different, whether you're writing, as you said, email, or we're here on the live stream. You could apply those points if you're doing a presentation. And maybe before we dive into the 3 questions, why don't we answer Cora's question, Keith, on your suggestions how to make communication more impactful in sales. So let's maybe talk a little bit on this. I think this is a good question, and we have a couple people that are in sales here that will find this helpful as well.
Good. And honestly, taking this system, the complete communication system, and training sales teams is truly one of my favorite. I love working with entrepreneurs because I am one, and so there's that.
There's bias there.
But as far as teams, I love working with sales teams, because I find the biggest challenge with people, especially if they've been selling that particular service or product for a long time, is they're such an expert and they can dive so deeply into whatever the topic is, or or the product or service is or does, or how it helps, all those different things. I find that it is so important with a sales team to nail that purpose question, to answer that so crystal clearly on what it is that I want this meeting, this phone call, this email to accomplish. Is it because if we're always thinking in terms of the bottom line, in terms of getting somebody to sign on the bottom line, on the dotted line, then it's something where we can oftentimes push too far too fast.
Yeah.
And if we're only thinking about our product or service, we can go too deeply before we've answered the question for the potential client of what is the primary problem that my product or service solves. And so it's something where when it comes to sales first, when it comes to sales, the first question that I want people to be asking is what the question I'm asking as a salesperson is, what question is my potential customer asking right now that I can answer to get them to ask one more question? Right? Because and a lot of times, and salespeople, I mean, Jorge, I would imagine that you know this. You want to talk more about the benefit to the customer than the features of your product, right? I mean, that's. But at the same time, I think that sometimes even narrowing that down to think, okay, if I've brainstormed 12 different benefits of my product or service, to be able to go into that meeting and having done enough research on this client or this company or whatever your service or product serves, to be able to say, okay, the biggest problem they have right now, right? Because that might change. The biggest problem most companies had 12 months ago is not the biggest problem that most companies have today, right?
Oh, yes.
And so how do you help that?
Yeah.
I've been talking to more and more people about virtual meetings.
Yes.
How do you run virtual sales calls, and how do you run virtual trainings? And right, I mean, because that's something. What do you do with your camera? What's a big,
yes.
And so there, all those different things. What do you do with whatever? I don't want to. I'm tempted to go deep into that. But I think that figuring out from your own research or your own questioning, or figuring out what are the 2 or 3 questions that I can ask at the beginning of the conversation that are going to help them identify for me which of the many benefits I could talk about are the ones that I should talk about for this person, so that they ask, okay, the next step is, okay, well, does it also do this? Or what is your licensing like? Or what is your,
yes.
how big are you going to serve, or whatever?
I like this, that you've put the emphasis, and I see that many salespeople go into this direction of making an emphasis, or this is my product, these are the benefits, and we are the best in the world. Here you go, bye, from me. And it's like a flashlight into your face. And being in a position where, I've been approached by salespeople when I was in corporate HR, I could say that you could see someone that wants just to go for the sale, and you could see and sense someone that is really wants to understand what is that you're facing and your challenges, and it makes a big difference. And I think, to add to your point, that is very helpful for any salespeople. And let's admit, we're all in sales, right? Whether you're looking for a new job or you're trying to date somebody, you're in sales. So we're trying to convince your kids to do homework. It's all sales process. So
if you figure that out, let me know.
Building that relationship, I think, is important, and building that safety trust in communication, where your potential prospect, and it's not very easy to do though, but where your potential prospect feels safe to share their true problems is really a skill. And I think that defines a brilliant salesperson from a mediocre salesperson, because when you have a skill to create that communication and that connection and that trust, it gives you an insight into your customer's world that you cannot get anyhow otherwise. And when you gain those insights, then you may find out that your solution may not even be suitable for their needs, right? But there, where you can refer them to other solutions, and this is where it would come, you will build a relationship, for life, where they will need your services. They will be the first one. You will be the first on their mind to think about and to call. So I think that really was a making difference for me when I was approached by salespeople, and where I wouldn't need their services right away. Those that really took time to build the rapport, the connection, and relationship, and looking into how can we deliver value even if you don't buy from us, would stand out and would be like on my mind to how can I deliver value back to them.
And I mean, what you just said is so true. And I've experienced it in the last 2 weeks. It's something where there's a business coach here in Seattle who introduced me to 5 different business coaches that she thought that I could help. And I talked to several of them, and one I helped out, and most of them were like, oh, well, not right now. And, whatever. I mean, how the whole sales process even goes. Well, as I was talking about what it is that I do and how I serve and help people, there's one of these ladies I didn't talk to for almost a year. And then she sent an email introduction to somebody else that my most recently acquired team that I'm going to be starting to serve on the 15th of this month is a team that was introduced to me because this person who I met one time 1 year ago knew how I helped people, and they hooked me up with this team that needed what I could help. And so now I'm working with them as a recommendation from somebody that never did hire me. So
you barely knew.
Exactly. It's so true.
Yes.
Serve people.
Yes.
And they'll connect you with the people that you can serve the best.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is great. We have more comments coming here from the audience. Laura is saying, preparing your purpose in 3 minutes. Think poetry. How strong are those few words? So true. Yes. Hey, this is even deeper, delivering it in poetry. That's going to require quite some preparation. Laura, I want to see your next video with poetry about New York when you're doing your New York stories. Right. Share some of those. That's going to be fantastic. Andrew is saying, that's very funny, Jean. I actually refer to sales as dating for business. This is so true.
Yeah.
Yes, this is great. And if you do find this valuable, I believe this episode is fantastic. Do share it with your community on LinkedIn and maybe write down one thing that was impactful to you so that we can share this fantastic approach, this process that Keith is sharing with us so generously. And Keith, how about the 3 important questions that anybody can ask if they want to deliver purposeful, powerful, precise communication, and give us some of those practical application for that.
Okay. So obviously there's a lot that goes into learning purpose, precision, points, and process. For those of you that are watching this right now, and you've got something you're preparing today, where I would start is not trying to walk through purpose, precision, point, walking through all that. Just ask yourself these questions and answer them as best as you can. One is, have I clarified my purpose? Right? Do I know what I want to accomplish instead of what I want to talk about? Once you've answered that, have I clarified my purpose? Write that down, put it on a sticky note, tape it to your monitor. Then as you're wading through all that you could talk about, ask yourself the second question, which is, have I simplified my content? Have I simplified my content so that I am only including content that will help me accomplish that purpose that I've said I want to accomplish in this meeting, this sales call, this presentation, this email that I'm writing, whatever it is. Have I simplified my content? And then the third question is, have I served my audience? Pause, and you may want to ask yourself, even as you're preparing and you're answering the first and second, think in terms of serving your audience. Is this might be the purpose that I have? Is this a purpose that is going to help them? Because if you are helping people, then they will hire you, or they'll at least engage with you, right? And I find that is a big mistake that we frequently make, is we haven't thought in terms of serving our audience. We've thought in terms of delivering our content. And so we have a story that we want to tell in the way that we want to tell it. And we figured out this is the best way, whatever. And until you answer that third question? Have I solved that person's problem, that team's challenge? Have I helped them accomplish the task that they are called to accomplish? How do I do that? And so thinking in terms of, have I clarified my purpose? Have I simplified my content? And have I served my audience? Those three questions could be the very simplest form of the system that's going to help you improve your communication, all of it. So
I love it. This is brilliant. The simplicity of that's what admirable. And here you go, simply communicate, right? Make it simple. And it is in our nature to overcomplicate things. We always complicate things and make them more, prone to be misunderstood. But if we focus on the simplicity, and those three questions are very applicable to any communication, whether it is in your professional, whether it is in your, sales job, or, with your at home, with your relationship. What is the purpose? How do you communicate? How do you want to deliver that? It can make a big impact, and it can make a big shift in the way how you deliver that, and how you serve people, and also how you influence others. Because ultimately, we want to deliver our messages. I believe we want to deliver the best messages and help people to make people's lives better, right? To hopefully change somebody's life, to, like you said, to help somebody solve their problems. Yeah. And if we do that collectively by improving our communication, I believe we can change this world to actually be a little bit better place.
Yeah. And boy, do we need that right now.
Yes. So I agree. Keith, this has been phenomenal. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time and sharing your fantastic value-packed content and system that you've developed and crafted and refined over so many years. I could see why you're so in demand. So if you've been intrigued by this, reach out to Keith on LinkedIn. Keith Ferrin is an expert, and he can help you definitely to improve your communication and simplify it. We have Sandra saying, yes, the challenge to simplify and drive everything to purpose is game changing. And yes, we need to focus on what helps our clients and prospects to accomplish their own purpose. Yes, Sandra, yep. This can be powerful, because I think when we shift from just a topic, from just, doing this and doing that for whatever reason we think, and gain that clarity and that structure that you've shared with us, it can be really, really powerful and impactful for anybody. And James agrees, saying, thank you so much. Great session. Keith, it's been a pleasure having you. And maybe the last couple tips that you want to leave with our audience for today.
Well, I would say purpose. Nobody cares what you want to talk about. They care what you want to accomplish. That, and then just remembering. I mean, I find that I'm constantly telling myself, simple gets applied, complicated gets set aside. Simple gets applied, complicated gets set aside. And so as we simplify that, and if somebody wants to talk through that, yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect on that. Or my direct email is just keith@isimplycommunicate.com.
Great.
keith@isimplycommunicate.com. I'd love to connect, or send me a LinkedIn message if you're watching this on LinkedIn. I know you put this all over the place, Jana. You're
fantastic.
You're connected everywhere. Awesome.
Fantastic. Andrew is saying, thank you. It's been very helpful. Andrew, I agree with you. I have to rewatch it all again and put the notes in. I already did my little scrumble notes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you again. It's been definitely a pleasure to spend this time with you, picking your brain, getting to know you, getting to learn from you, and for you being so generous with us today. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right, see you next time.
Have a good one, everyone.
Wow. If you do not believe this, I cannot believe it. It's been simple, it's been applicable, and it's been powerful. So if you do find this helpful, please share with your community. Write down what are the things that really touched you, resonated with you, gave value to you, helped you solve your problems, and maybe help your prospects and your clients solve their problems. I do believe that when we improve our communication, we find a proven system that we can apply in crafting our messages, make it simple. The simple is getting applied and complicated is put aside. I agree to that very much. That we can make big change and big shift in our own trajectory, in our lives, in our careers, and in the lives of those people that we serve around. And I do believe that we can change this world to be a better place. Well, thank you so much, my friend, for joining in today, and I see you again next time. Be safe.